strongly tinged with the desire element, and with little in it of real thought. Men interpret these dimly sensed laws in terms of finality, and from their little point of view. The idea of retribution runs through much of the teaching on karma, for instance, because men seek a plausible explanation of things, as they appear to be, and are themselves fond of dealing out retribution. Yet there is far more general good karma than bad, little as you may think it when immersed in such a period as the present. 3. The world illusion and glamour, which prevents the average and ignorant man from seeing life as it truly is. Even the advanced man, and the disciples are only beginning to get a fleeting, and inadequate glance at a glorious reality. 4. Uncontrolled minds and unreleased, and unawakened brain cells also hinder man from correct realization. This fact is often unrecognized. The apparatus of realization is as yet inadequate. This point needs emphasizing. 5. National and racial temperaments, with their predisposing temperaments, and prejudices. These factors again prevent a just appreciation of these realities. I have given enough here to indicate to you the stupidity of attempting to state that you understand these laws towards which you are groping, and which you seek to understand. Nowhere in human thought is the darkness greater than in connection with the laws concerning disease and death. It is necessary, therefore, to realize that, from the start, in all I have to say, under the heading The Psychological Causes of Disease, I am not dealing with those complaints, or predispositions to disease which emerge out of the environment, or with those definitely physical taints which are inherited from parents who have carried in their bodies and transmitted to their children disease germs which they, in their turn, may have inherited from their parents. I would like to point out that these inherited diseases are far fewer than is at present surmised. Of these, the predisposition to tuberculosis, to syphilis and to cancer are the most important, where our present humanity is concerned. They are inherited, and also can be imparted by contact. These I will deal with under our second major heading on the diseases emanating from the group. Chapter I, The Psychological Causes of Disease. The point I would like to make here, before proceeding further, is that I shall seek to avoid, as far as possible, all technicalities. Our theme is the esoteric consideration of disease and its forms. It seeks to elucidate the subjective and the vital causes of such diseases, and to indicate the general laws with which the healer must work, and the 6 rules which he must impose upon himself and to which he gives obedience, through discipline and understanding. You will have noted that I listed the psychological causes under 4 headings. 1. Those arising out of the emotional feeling nature. 2. Those which have their origin in the etheric body. 3. Those which are based on wrong thought. 4. The peculiar complaints and psychological troubles of disciples. It may have interested you to see that I place the ills of the etheric body in the second place, and not the first. The reason for this is that the group ills and diseases which have fastened upon the race, work primarily through the etheric body and find their way out into manifestation via the etheric bodies of all forms. But I have placed them second, even though they are in the last analysis the most numerous, owing to the fact that humanity cannot as yet deal with these en masse. The approach has to be through individuals, and men must clear their astral or emotional bodies of those conditions which predispose them to disease, as individuals. At present, the race is astrally polarized. The emotional sentient nature is all-powerful in the masses. This leads to a relatively negative etheric body, which is tuned in on the entire etheric substance of the planet. This substance, which underlies all forms, is simply a transferring and transmitting agency for vital energy to the outer dense physical body. Energy sweeps through this etheric substance, free from all control by the individual human being, and quite unrealized by him because his focus of attention is astral. From the astral or emotional state of consciousness, much concerning individual physical conditions can be deduced. We must, however, eliminate those ills which are group ills, and which have swept into and through all mankind from the world of etheric force, leaving him in some way depleted, or overstimulated, or in such a condition that death naturally supervenes. It might be stated as a basic generalization, that personal physical trouble has its seat at present in the emotional body, and that vehicle of expression is the one predominant, predisposing agent in the ill health of the individual, just as group ills and the sweep of epidemics of any kind through the masses are founded in some condition in the etheric substance of the planet. Those diseases which are general, national, racial, and planetary find their way to an individual via his etheric body, but are not so personal in their implications. Upon this I will later enlarge. Today I but lay down the general proposition. I would also like to point out that the diseases for the masses, for the average citizen, for the intelligentsia, and for the disciples of the world may, and do, differ widely not so much in their expression as in their field of expression. This is a point most difficult for the average healer to recognize. It is not easy or possible for him to grasp these distinctions, and to gauge the point in evolution, which a man may have reached. Some diseases must be dealt with from the mental plane, and will call in the mind of the healer. Others require a concentration of emotional energy by the healing agent. And again, in other cases, the healer should seek to be only a transmitter of pranic energy to the etheric body of the patient, via his own etheric body. How many healers are really consciously aware of the focus of the consciousness, or the life force in the patient with whom they may be concerned? How many realize anything of the type of healing which it is possible and necessary to apply to a disciple? How few realize that no disciple, for instance, can place himself in the hands of the average magnetic healer, or radiatory worker, or psychological expert of any kind? A disciple dare not subject himself to the auric emanations of any chance healer, nor put himself in the power of the inexperienced academic psychologist, no matter how prominent he may be. He may, however, subject himself to the wise skill of the physical plane physician or surgeon, as for him the physical body is but an automaton. He can therefore avail himself of physical means for its benefiting. Much of the failure of the healing methods at present employed consists in the inability of the healer to 1. Gauge the extent of the trouble, where it may be located basically, and in what body it principally arises and lies. 2. Know where the patient stands upon the ladder of evolution, and where, therefore, he must look first for the source of the difficulty. 3. Differentiate between the diseases which are due to interpersonal conditions, or to inherited tendencies, or to group distribution. 4. To know whether the disease should be handled, a. allopathically or homeopathically, for both can play their part at times, or through any of the other media of modern skill and science. B. Through radiation or magnetization, or both. C. Through right inner psychological adjustment, aided by true insight on the part of the healing agent. D. Through calling in the power of a man's own soul, a thing that is not possible except to advanced people. E. Through definite occult means, such as forming a healing triangle. Of this method involves much knowledge, and a high point of spiritual attainment on the part of the healer. It also presupposes the healer's link with the master and the master's group, plus the earned right to call upon that group for energy on behalf of the patient, a thing as yet rarely granted. I would like first of all to point out that my purpose and intent is not to write a medical treatise. I shall not, therefore, deal with the anatomy of the body, nor shall I discuss the symptoms of diseases, except quite incidentally. I do not intend to elaborate symptoms, or consider the many diseases with long names which distinguish the race at this time. All such information you can gather from the ordinary textbooks, if you so choose, and these you can study, if you care to do so. I find it personally not particularly satisfying. We will start with the premise that there is disease. That disease is an effect of inner causes. That man has made as vast strides in the understanding of the effect of these causes as they produce changes in the outer garment of man, as science has made in the understanding of the outer garment of God, the world of phenomenal nature. The ameliorative and palliative, and curative work of medicine, and surgery, are proved beyond all controversial discussion. The methods employed, such as the vivisection of animals, may rightly cause distress. In spite of all this, the indebtedness of mankind to the medical profession is great, and the service rendered to humanity by the profession does largely offset the evil. That they know not everything is true. That there is a small percentage of physicians and surgeons, less than in any other profession, who are self-seeking, and no credit to their craft is equally true. That they already know enough to be willing to admit how very much more there is to be known, is also correct. But that it is a great and good and self-sacrificing group within the human family, is equally true. Forget this not. I deal with the subjective aspect of man, and with the secondary causes which have their roots in man's inner bodies and in the subjective side of nature itself. The major primary causes, as I earlier explained, are impossible for you to grasp. They lie beyond the capacity of the concrete mind. I seek to make clear what man may do to free himself increasingly from the accumulation of the past, both individually and as a group, and in so doing to clear his physical body of the germs of disease. It must, however, be borne in mind that many diseases are of a group nature, and are consequently inherent in humanity itself. Just as the insect world devastates and destroys the vegetable kingdom, as any chance walker through the woods can note, so germs individual and group today devastate and destroy the human kingdom. They are agents of destruction, and are performing a definite office and duty in the great scheme of things at present. The intent is for men to die, as every man has to die, at the demand of this own soul. When man has reached a higher stage in evolution, with deliberation and definite choice of time, he will consciously withdraw from his physical body. It will be left silent and empty of the soul. Devoid of light, yet sound and whole. It will then disintegrate, under the natural process, and its constituent atoms will pass back into the pool of waiting units, until they are again required for the use of incarnating souls. Again, on the subjective side of life, the process is repeated, but many have already learned to withdraw from the astral body without being subject to that impact in the fog, which is the symbolic way of describing the death of a man upon the astral plane. He then withdraws onto the mental level, and leaves his astral carcass to swell the fog and increase its density. I seek to point out, therefore, that my avoidance of medical technicalities will be deliberate, though we shall refer often to the physical body and to the